There are moments in life that test the very fabric of who we are. Moments when power flexes its muscle in the wrong direction, when justice hangs in the balance, swaying between silence and a single voice. This is the story of a man forgotten by the world until he reminded it who he was. A black man, a veteran, homeless, eating dinner alone on a cold night in the city, and three cops who thought they could write his ending, but instead they triggered the beginning of their own. This is One Call the Night They Picked the Wrong Man. The diner was nothing special. Neon lights buzzed against foggy glass. The smell of burnt coffee lingered in the air. Outside, the world passed by in a blur of headlights and cold breath. Inside, at a corner booth, sat a man with a worn coat, calloused hands and tired eyes. His name was James Holloway. To most people, he was invisible. Just another homeless man with a plastic bag and a backpack full of memories. But James wasn't just anyone. He was a U.S. Marine. 3 tours, 2 Bronze Stars, 1 shattered knee, and a long list of things he never talked about. Tonight, he had scraped together enough for a hot meal, a small moment of peace until the door swung open, and trouble walked in. 3 uniformed officers, loud, confident, patrolling the night like kings in a land they thought was theirs. Officer Barnes, the ringleader, young, white, aggressive. Officer Kelly, silent but smirking. Officer Rowe, eager to follow. They spotted James like hunters spot prey. Barnes nudged the others. Officer Barnes, mocking, "Hey, look at this guy. What's he doing in here? Place like this ain't for vagrants." James didn't look up. He didn't need to. He'd seen it before. That tone, that look, a mixture of contempt and boredom wrapped in authority. They walked over to his booth. Officer Barnes, "Hey, old man, this your dinner?" James nodded slowly. "Yes, sir." Officer Kelly, snorting, "Where'd you get the cash, huh? Panhandle out front?" James stayed calm, quiet. Officer Barnes, "We got complaints. People feeling unsafe. You loitering here." James looked him in the eye. His voice was steady. "I bought my food. I'm not bothering anyone." Officer Rowe, smirking, "Got ID?" James reached slowly into his coat and placed his military ID on the table. Barnes glanced at it, then smirked. Officer Barnes, "Marine, huh? Bet you wish that still meant something." He picked up the ID and pretended to inspect it, then dropped it on the ground. Officer Barnes, "Oops." In that moment, everything shifted. The other diners fell silent, pretending not to see. The waitress froze behind the counter. James picked up his ID, wiped it gently. He'd been through worse. In Fallujah, in Kandahar, in his own city. But tonight, something was different. Officer Barnes, "You got 2 choices. You leave now, or we help you leave." James didn't move. James, quietly, "I've done nothing wrong." Officer Rowe, "That's it." They grabbed him. Rough hands, twisted arms. His plate clattered to the floor. Narrator, angry, controlled. They thought they were making an example, but all they did was light a fuse. As they dragged him out, James said just 4 words. "James, I want one call." In the back of the cruiser, with hands still cuffed, James made his call. A number memorized long ago. Not to a lawyer, not to a friend, but to someone who owed him everything. The phone rang once, then again, then a voice answered. Voice, sharp, direct. "Colonel Matthews." James, calm. "Sir, it's Holloway. I need your help." There was a pause, a silence filled with recognition, history, and urgency. "Matthews, where are you?" 30 minutes later, everything changed. Lights, sirens, unmarked vehicles. A black SUV pulled up to the precinct. Out stepped a man in a crisp suit, followed by 2 military police officers and a federal liaison. Colonel Matthews. He didn't knock. He didn't wait. He stormed into the station like it belonged to him. Colonel Matthews commanding, "Where is Staff Sergeant James Holloway?" The desk sergeant stammered. "Colonel Matthews, you're holding a decorated Marine under false pretenses. He was assaulted by your officers. And as of right now, this is a federal matter." The precinct froze. Phones rang, voices hushed. Officer Barnes was pulled into an interrogation room. So were Kelly and Rowe. Body cam footage reviewed, witness statements collected, diner security video retrieved, and then the truth unraveled. Within 72 hours, Officer Barnes was suspended pending investigation. Officer Rowe and Officer Kelly were placed on administrative leave. The precinct came under federal scrutiny for misconduct and racial profiling. Civil rights lawyers reached out. News vans showed up. James Holloway, he didn't want attention. He wanted dignity. But justice? That he would accept. A week later, in front of a crowd of reporters, Colonel Matthews stood beside James. Colonel Matthews, this man is a hero, not because he served, but because he endured. Because when injustice knocked on his door, he stood tall. James stepped forward. No anger, just truth. James, I fought for this country, and even now I fight for the right to be treated like a man. Not a threat, not a burden, just a human being. His words echoed. And somewhere, in every city alley and diner booth, men like James sat a little taller. James was offered housing through a veteran program. He now volunteers to help other homeless veterans. He doesn't talk much about that night, but when he does, he says one thing. James, they thought I was weak, but they didn't know who I was calling. They didn't know who I still am. Because sometimes justice doesn't come with a badge or a robe. Sometimes it comes with 4 words and 1 phone call. James Holloway never wanted to be a symbol. He didn't ask for the cameras, the interviews, the hashtags. He never chased the spotlight. All he wanted that night was a warm meal, a little peace, a corner in the world that didn't treat him like a threat. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. Because sometimes the smallest act of defiance, one calm voice in the face of injustice, is all it takes to flip the script. Those officers thought they were dealing with just another statistic, another nameless, homeless man. They didn't see the man who had buried friends on foreign soil, who had held the line under enemy fire, who had served his country with a pride that couldn't be stripped by poverty or pain. They didn't know that the same man they tried to humiliate had saved the life of a commanding officer now sitting in the Pentagon. They didn't know that James Holloway had once carried wounded men on his back through enemy fire, and that those men had never forgotten. And now, neither would they. Because after that night, they weren't just cops. They were examples. Examples of what happens when the system protects itself until it can't. When silence is broken not with rage, but with proof, with honor, with accountability. Colonel Matthews didn't come out of loyalty. He came because men like Holloway never ask for help. And when they do, you drop everything. That's the code. That's the bond. And when Matthews walked into that precinct, he didn't just come for one man. He came for every man the system had overlooked. James Holloway now lives in a small apartment provided by a veteran outreach program. It's modest, a single bed, a small fridge, a window that lets in the morning sun. He doesn't decorate the place with his medals. He doesn't hang up photos from the military. Those memories stay in a shoebox under his bed, quiet reminders of the past. But every Friday, he volunteers at a center for homeless veterans. He brings coffee, shares stories, and sometimes he just listens. Because James understands something now. Power isn't always in your fists or your titles. Sometimes power is in your name, when it's finally spoken with respect. Sometimes it's in knowing the right people and having lived a life worthy of their loyalty. Sometimes it's in standing when others would have fallen. And sometimes it's just having the courage to say, I want one call. Because that one call, it didn't just save him. It shook a precinct. It rippled across newsrooms, courtrooms, and hearts that had long gone numb to injustice. And in the end, it reminded the world that dignity isn't something you earn from a badge. It's something you're born with. No matter how poor you are, no matter what color your skin is, no matter if you sleep under a roof or beneath the stars. This was the story of James Holloway. And the night 3 cops tried to take everything, but lost everything instead. Because when justice finally speaks, it doesn't whisper, it roars, and sometimes it dials direct.